Busy is a disguise for fear. Most people confuse motion with progress. They fill their calendars with meetings, emails, and tasks, not because those things move them forward, but because being busy feels safer than being still. Stillness forces you to confront the real question: is what I'm doing actually working? Busy people never ask that question because they're too exhausted to think. They wake up, react to their inbox, react to their boss, react to the fire of the day, and call it a productive day. But reacting is not the same as building. Fear disguises itself as urgency. If you're always slammed, you never have to sit with the terrifying possibility that your current path leads nowhere. Wealthy people, on the other hand, protect empty time like it's gold, because that's where strategy is born. They ask uncomfortable questions. What's the one thing that actually moves the needle? Everyone else is too busy surviving the day to design the decade. The truth is brutal. Activity without direction is just expensive exhaustion. You can work 16 hours a day for 10 years and still be broke, while someone working 4 focused hours builds an empire, because they spent time thinking before they spent time doing. Busy feels productive. It is emotionally satisfying. It is also, most of the time, a trap that keeps you comfortable while your life stays exactly the same. Motion without leverage is a trap. There's a massive difference between effort and leverage. Effort is you doing the work. Leverage is the work doing itself, even when you're asleep. Busy people trade hours for dollars, 1-to-1, forever, and there are only 24 hours in a day, so their income has a hard ceiling. Rich people build systems, assets, and processes that multiply their effort without multiplying their time. A busy person answers 100 emails a day. A rich person builds an automation, hires someone, or creates a product that answers those emails for them permanently. This is the difference between a job and a business, between a paycheck and wealth. Every hour spent doing something that doesn't get easier, faster, or bigger over time is an hour spent standing still while pretending to run. Real growth comes from asking, can this be systemized? Can this be delegated? Can this be built once and sold 1,000 times? If the answer is no, you are trading your life for temporary relief, not building permanent wealth. The busiest people in any office are rarely the richest people in the room, because busyness caps out, but leverage compounds. One path exhausts you into your 40s. The other path frees you by your 30s. The choice isn't about working harder. It's about working on things that don't require you forever. Clarity beats hustle every time. Hustle without clarity is just chaos with a good marketing name. You can hustle in the wrong direction for 20 years and end up further from your goal than someone who sat still for 20 minutes and actually planned. Busy people glorify the grind because grinding feels heroic. Sweat, sacrifice, sleepless nights. It looks like dedication on camera, but clarity isn't glamorous. Nobody posts a video of themselves sitting quietly for an hour, figuring out their next 5 years. Yet that hour is worth more than 100 hours of unfocused hustle. When you know exactly what you want, every action becomes sharper, faster, and more effective. When you don't, every action is a guess, and guesses are expensive. The busiest failures in history didn't fail from lack of effort. They failed from lack of direction. They worked incredibly hard climbing a ladder, leaned against the wrong wall. Clarity forces you to say no to 90% of what looks urgent, so you can say yes to the 10% that's actually important. This is uncomfortable because saying no feels like losing opportunities. But every yes to the wrong thing is a slow theft of your future. The most dangerous distractions aren't the obviously bad ones, they're the productive-looking ones that keep you busy while quietly keeping you poor. Comfort is the silent killer of wealth. Busy work is comfortable because it has no risk. You already know how to answer emails, attend meetings, and check boxes off a to-do list. There's no fear of failure in routine tasks. They're safe, predictable, and socially approved. But wealth doesn't live in comfort. Wealth lives on the other side of decisions that scare you. Starting the business, raising the price, firing the client who drains you, walking away from the stable job. Busy people avoid these decisions by staying too busy to make them. It's a convenient excuse. I'd love to start that project, but I just don't have time. In reality, they've built a busy schedule specifically to avoid facing the terrifying blank page of an uncertain future. The moment you strip away the busyness, you're left alone with your own potential, and that's a frightening place for most people to sit. Growth requires discomfort, and discomfort requires stillness to face it. You cannot outrun fear by staying in motion forever. Eventually it catches up, usually around age 40 or 50, when the busy years are gone and the results never came. The people who get rich are the ones who choose the uncomfortable conversation, the uncomfortable risk, and the uncomfortable silence today, instead of choosing the comfortable busyness that guarantees nothing changes tomorrow. Time blocked for thinking is the highest ROI activity. If you tracked every hour of a wealthy person's week versus a busy person's week, you'd find one massive difference. The wealthy person blocks time to think, plan, and strategize, often ruthlessly protected, sometimes hours a day. The busy person considers this time wasted because nothing visible gets produced. No emails sent, no tasks checked off, just thinking. But that thinking hour often generates more value than the other 23 hours combined. because it's where decisions get made that redirect entire months or years of effort. A single strategic insight, the right partnership, the right pricing model, the right market can be worth more than a decade of busy execution in the wrong direction. Yet most people fill every waking minute with tasks because unstructured thinking time feels unproductive and even guilt-inducing in a culture obsessed with visible hustle. This is backwards. The highest leverage work often looks like doing nothing from the outside. Executives, founders, and top performers protect their calendars from meetings, specifically to preserve thinking space. Because they understand a truth busy people miss. It's not the doing that creates wealth. It's the deciding what's worth doing. Skipping this step and jumping straight into busyness is like sprinting without knowing which direction the finish line is in. You'll be exhausted, sweaty, and impressively fast, moving in completely the wrong direction. Results, not hours, are the only currency that matters. The market does not pay for effort. It pays for results. This is one of the hardest truths busy people refuse to accept. Because it feels unfair. I worked so hard, I deserve to get paid for it. But nobody pays for your hours. They pay for what those hours produced. A busy person can work 60 hours a week doing low-value tasks and earn less than someone who works 10 focused hours solving a high-value problem. This is why some people get rich quickly and others stay broke despite decades of hard work. They're optimizing for different currencies. Busy people optimize for hours logged, tasks completed, and how tired they feel by the end of the day, mistaking exhaustion for accomplishment. Wealthy people optimize for outcomes, revenue generated, problem solved, value created for others. The shift happens when you stop asking, how can I fill my day? And start asking, what result actually needs to exist by the end of today? Sometimes that means doing far less, but doing the few things that matter with total focus. This single mindset shift from hours to outcomes is the dividing line between people who stayed busy their whole lives and people who eventually become free. The goal was never to work more. The goal was always to produce more with less, and that requires thinking, not just moving. What if I told you that the harder you're working right now, the further you might be pushing yourself from the life you actually want? What if the 16-hour days, the packed calendar, the exhausted collapse into bed every night? What if all of that isn't proof you're building something, but proof you're avoiding something? Because here's the truth nobody wants to hear. Busy is not a badge of honor. Busy is often just fear wearing a productivity costume. You fill your day so full, there's no room left to ask the terrifying question, is any of this actually working? And as long as you're too tired to ask, you never have to face the answer. Real wealth isn't built by people who move the fastest. It's built by people who think the clearest. While you're drowning in emails and meetings and fires that never stop burning, someone else is sitting quietly for 1 hour, deciding exactly which direction to point their entire life, and that 1 hour is worth more than your entire exhausting week. You are trading your life for motion instead of trading it for leverage. You're doing tasks that don't compound, that don't multiply, that don't get easier or bigger over time, and you call it hard work. But hard work aimed in the wrong direction doesn't make you rich, it just makes you tired and broke 20 years later, wondering where it all went wrong. Comfort is the real enemy here, because busy feels safe. Busy has no risk. Busy lets you avoid the terrifying decision, the uncomfortable conversation, the leap that actually changes everything. Every hour you spend being busy is an hour you didn't spend being brave. And wealth, real lasting wealth, lives on the other side of bravery, not on the other side of busyness. The market doesn't pay you for your hours, it pays you for your results. Nobody cares how tired you are at the end of the day. They care what you built, what you solved, what value you created while everyone else was just spinning their wheels, mistaking exhaustion for progress. So today, stop asking, how do I fill my time? Start asking, what actually moves me forward? Protect your thinking time like it's the most valuable asset you own, because it is. Say no to the busy work that feels productive but leads nowhere. Say yes to the uncomfortable, focused, high-leverage work that actually changes your life. Busy will keep you comfortable, but comfortable is not where wealth lives. If you want a different life, you don't need more hours in your day, you need more clarity in your direction. Stop measuring your worth by how tired you are, and start measuring it by what you actually built. The path to freedom was never about doing more. It was always about doing what matters, on purpose, with total focus. What if the busiest people you know are actually the furthest from getting rich? What if every late night, every packed calendar, every "I'm just so slammed right now" is secretly the reason you're still stuck exactly where you started last year? Think about it. The wealthiest people you've ever heard of didn't win by doing the most things. They won by doing the right thing, over and over, while everyone else confused exhaustion for progress. Busy feels safe, busy feels productive, but busy is often just fear, dressed up so well you don't even recognize it anymore. Because if you're always busy, you never have to sit still long enough to ask the one question that actually matters. Is any of this working? So what if today you stop measuring your life in hours worked and started measuring it in results created. Stay with me for the next few minutes because what I'm about to tell you might completely change the way you look at hard work forever.